Ladies and gentlemen, we are very happy to welcome you in this parallel session continued in our live Clean Energy Transition European Information Day today. We are here now in the session which is dedicated to standard action projects. And so I'm just talking slow to allow the participants to join into this session. Moving over from another session or from the lunch break. And then we would go for the agenda, please. The next slide. Thank you very much. So for those of you who have kindly joined us already this morning in the plenary session, we gave you an overview of all of the funding opportunities which are part of the Life Clean Energy Transition Program for this Call 24. All in all, we have 15 funding topics which are offering new, exciting, we hope, opportunities for you and for contributing to your role in the clean energy transition. This particular session is dedicated to one of these 15 funding topics and is in a certain way a bit special because we are working with an instrument under the LIFE umbrella, which is called Standard Action Projects, and which basically has a slightly different complementary nature to the main part of the call, which is working on coordination and support actions. Now, this all sounds fairly theoretical, I would say, at this point in time. And so basically, we'll need to dive into the content of this funding opportunity to show you in which way this type of support could complement well what your main endeavors are working on the ground, but also which complements from our programming perspective, complements very well our Life Clean Energy Transition funding opportunities as we know them. Regarding the agenda, so we will have a very focused session. I can welcome Pierluca Merola, who joins this panel kindly from DG Energy, the European Commission. He's a policy officer working in the energy efficiency policy team, and he will give us an update of the latest policy picture against which work will be invited to contribute to this policy agenda. Then I will take time in order to explain to you the content of this topic of this year, of this Call 24, under the Standard Action Projects for Life CET. And then we will have time for your questions in case you would like to deepen your learning and your experiences here. So without further ado, I would suggest that we move over to the next point, and I invite Pierluca, please, to take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annette, and welcome everybody back from lunch. For those of you that managed to have a lunch break, to this session on the Standard Action project. From my side, I will provide you a policy update, but also let me as part of my responsibility in DG Energy, I also coordinate on our side the Life Clean Energy Transition Program. So a couple of words also on this new Standard Action project. This is a first test under the Life Clean Energy Transition. As those of you that already participated in our project know that the main area of intervention are on coordination and support action, but we indeed for to support the delivery of some policy needs, we thought it might be interesting to try out these opportunities, the Standard Action Project, which are part of the overall LIFE program framework that those of you that as you know very well, offer a lot of flexibility in terms of the type of instrument to be used for the different needs. So we can start from the policy background. If we can move to the next slide, please. Yes, I will not, indeed, the overall policy background, I presented it also this morning in the plenary session. I will just recall it here very briefly to then focus on the elements that are a bit more relevant for this call topics. I know that the session is recorded, so if any element is a bit unclear, I invite you also to watch the overall presentation in the plenary session. So when it comes to bit the overall background and the approval of the Fit for 55 legislation regarding the energy transition, it is clear that there is a particular and strong need to support delivery on the ground in terms of policy implementation. You know that in line with the European Green Deal, there was a strengthening of the different key legislation when we speak about energy efficiency and renewable. In this particular case, with regard to the standard deduction project and the area that are targeted, it is important to mention the role that that the European framework required to both local actors in the local municipality and authorities in directly supporting and be involved and be the main actors on the ground when it comes to delivery on the energy efficiency ambition, be it on the side, of course, of the public buildings renovation, but also when it comes to the heating and cooling, the district heating as district heating operators. There is, of course, important role there, and also I would say when it comes to the role played by financial institution and the overall financial ecosystem in developing products and tools that are needed for the energy transition. In this regard, the Energy Efficiency Directive strengthen if we can move to the next slide as well. So indeed, strengthen the provision in terms of the exemplary role of public sector, enlarging the application beyond the government buildings to the central government building to all public building own. Of course, the transposition of the directive will identify which are the obligated entities specifically, and to achieve a reduction of final energy consumption of 1.9% final energy consumption each year. If we can move to the next slide, please. Here, I wanted indeed to recall the particular strong role when it comes to local authority and the supporting structure for local authority, for instance, energy agencies they can play on the ground for the development of heating and cooling plants. This is also a requirement for Article 20 from Article 25 of the ED. If we can move to the next slide, please. Then another key element, and this is more related to the financing provisions that I was mentioning before, is that there is in order to deliver on our energy efficiency objectives and more broadly energy transition objective, there is really a need to scale up the use as well of and to reach to engage with the overall market and energy service market for the market for energy service companies. And in this regard, it's important in particular the role that they can play when in particular when it comes to ambitious deep renovation, including by using of course energy performance contracting. The overall objective of better linking the financial let's say the financial architecture of an investment with the overall performance in terms of energy performance is a bit at the core of also the let's say the needs that we wanted to address with this topic. So this indeed, when it comes to Article 29, there is an overall reinforcement of the enabling framework for energy services with the request, of course, to promote the develop model contract and financial instrument, and as well, in particular, when it comes to the public sector, to facilitate the uptake of energy services and energy performance contract for the renovation of public buildings. And I will add in this regard for ambitious renovation of public buildings. If we can move to the next slide, I will add a little bit more indeed to our overall article on financing energy efficiency and the general strengthening of the framework. Here we divided in general what we have revised in the current directive in 4 areas. where here in this case the two are particularly relevant. The first one for us here today is of course in the promotion of energy efficiency lending product, of energy efficiency mortgage and green loan, of private financial product to be offered by financial institution, by brokers, by the overall financial ecosystem to possible customers. So the development of that sustainable finance, but I would say the sustainable finance more, of course, on the ground and at the level of uh, um, of people to business level. And then another important element is, of course, the overall dialogue that need to be strengthened with private and public financial institution and their engagement in the delivery of the energy transition objective. If we can move to the next slide, please. Then it's very important. We cannot not speak here, of course, about the EPBD, the Energy Performance of Building Directive, the other key legislation when it comes to energy efficiency, and particularly on the buildings where the majority of the largest saving potential is, and where the largest investment needs are as well. And in this regard, I wanted in particular to recall to make as well the link with the element that we mentioned on financing, to recall the introduction of the minimum energy performance standards for non-residential building and national trajectory for the residential building stock, which will of course call for the provision and to develop and to engage actively in developing also as well new instrument to put forward in the market. If we can move to the next slide here. I will just what I recall is, and it's important that you will have access to it for your information, is of course the differentiation between the obligation that are regarding the non-residential building stock and the one that regard the residential building stock when it comes to engage to trigger additional renovation. If we can move ahead to the next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you. Here, I just wanted indeed to recall the overall framework. I mean, I mentioned the need to activate private investment, and this come from when the analysis that, of course, from the EU central level we do on the level of investment needs, and where, of course, these need to come. If we look at the overall need, there is indeed the attention is to develop the demand in order to attract additional private investment. In order to do that, to make it easier for the private investor to come in and to finance the energy transition, there is of course the focus on have a more efficient use of public finance available. If we can move to the next slide. I see I'm a bit afraid that I'm taking a bit more time, but if we can move ahead, please. I would like to. Yes, so we can also move a bit forward. Yeah, also. Thank you. Here, I really wanted, indeed, I wanted to introduce to you as well in this framework the work as well that the European Commission and the DG in particular have taken forward when it comes to activating the EU manufacturing capacity and of nearly net zero technologies, and in particular with adoption of the Net Zero Industry Act. The Commission have created the framework at the EU level of the development of the supply of net zero technologies, and this is particularly relevant here because it gives us a first indication of the objective that the European Union give it itself in order to increase the production and deployment of the identified, because of course this set categories of technologies to achieve the 2030 climate target, and of course toward the 2040 and 2050 with a particular attention to reach to reach 15% of the world production on this technology by 2040. If we can move to the next slide, please. I would like to indeed focus on the fact that when we speak about the Net Zero Industry Act, it can be divided across six pillars. And you can see how, and you will see from the specific topic on the Standard Action Project, how there is indeed a need to align through regulatory sandboxes to find a way how on a coordinated way, it can be further promote the deployment in terms of market uptake of net zero technology, as well as intervening on skills and on the overall investment framework and market support. If we can move to the next slide, please. What is indeed in the act is a list of the net zero technologies that I will not go now here in the full detail, but what is also very much important, I would say, for this framework is as well the supportive actions that can be promoted, and overall the approach it would be here in particular to support to engage with the market and support on the ground action that are taking place, and that might indeed need some additional support. If we can move to the next slide, I will a bit indeed conclude here to a bit from our side before passing back the floor to Annette to complement what the overall approach in this regard. So. In this regard, we identified three main areas where we find it particularly helpful to capture with such a flexible topic and offer support to close to market solution and enabling structure that are being developed on the ground. And here, as I mentioned throughout my presentation, I think the three main area are, of course, the local element, in the sense that providing support to local and regional authorities to activate structure at the closest level to EU citizen and business to deliver on the energy transition with their objective, to support the rollout of investment, and these in particular, as I mentioned, either through direct support through the energy service company market, or as well engaging with financial institution and the overall actors involved in the financing area. And finally, the third important point is as well on, as mentioned, on the EU manufacturing capacity for net zero technologies and provide support to companies, organization, actors active in this area. With this, I will conclude, and indeed, I hope I try to stay within the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pierluca. Indeed, a complex challenge to sum the essence up in short time, notably as basically so the updates have been so comprehensive. But I thought you had really distilled the relevant points for what is now to come. Basically, I will offer you a more detailed zoom in on the funding opportunity as such under the Clean Energy Transition Standard Action Projects. Thank you very much for the slides. And yes, thank you. We can move to the first slide. Thanks. So before moving into what we would probably tell the contextual environment and the technical background, let's first just have a quick look on what is it that we understand by standard action projects. So standard action projects, here you actually on the slide, you have the definition as put down in the regulation for life. So they offer opportunities to develop, demonstrate, and promote innovative techniques, methods, and approaches. They contribute to the knowledge base and to the application of best practices. They support the uptake, implementation of relevant union legislation and policy, and Pierluca here has really given a very good zoomed in overview on the relevant pieces of legislation that in this context we would like to drive forward, but notably by enhancing the capacities of key actors in the ecosystem around the energy transition, while ensuring a large-scale deployment of successful technical or policy-related solutions. Now, bearing that in mind, going to this next slide, basically the aim of putting out the funding topic standard action projects is really to offer a flexible topic to support actions from key either commercial or non-commercial actors of the energy transition. Now, flexible topic, that is probably best understood if we relate the topic to the main part of the clean energy transition call, in which we have funding topics which are normally equipped with a very detailed guidance, but also with quite clear requirements that we are inviting for and that need to be fulfilled in order to really take benefit of the funding opportunity. Here, we are basically putting out an offer for key actors of the energy transition to come with their needs and their ideas and their agendas, and with a description and ambition which basically fulfills the requirements on really leveling up large-scale deployment of innovative techniques and methods and technologies and approaches, by thereby offering the flexibility to your market choices. So reference market, yes, these activities are preferably close to market. So we are really looking at uptake of solutions and market-oriented approaches in order to really contribute to the implementation of the very policy agendas and targets and the implementation of the legislative pieces which are critical to the energy transition and which Pierluca had outlined a moment ago. Going to the next slide. Here also, we apologize for the color coding, which doesn't seem to match the system so well, but I do hope that you can somewhat recognize the words, and I'll be happy to take you through them. So here also what plays into the formulation of the funding opportunities are our experiences from clean energy transition projects, which we've been running over the last years. So really that the level of reinforcing skills and service models to really deliver and implement the energy transition is really crucial, but also the value recognized to building on the experience, the know-how, but also of the ambition and vision from front runners to take basically the market and the structures a level higher. Here, what will be crucial for this topic and the funding in terms of the evaluation, so basically for those who decide to run up for this funding opportunity, obviously you'll be conscious that there will be an evaluation looking at the value and the complementarity of your proposal against others and against the mainstream state of the art of the market. So basically demonstrating that you're making sure that you have really good prospects of the market solutions are really being taken up by society as a whole, but obviously in the sector and in the economic context that you're proposing. And in that way, also taking account that what the Commission is striving for is an overall fair energy transition. So basically a holistic approach to your own approach is required in order to run up successfully for such funding. Now, taking it to the next slide, here we've put, which is slightly also color coding, difficult, but I hope that you can follow. Here we are putting out the actual scope of the funding opportunity under this topic. And we've outlined before, we've chosen the approach to offer the support alongside the work of key actors of the energy transition. So in that sense, coherently also, here you will find basically a list of key actors which will be in the spotlight or which will be basically the priority for this funding. We have grouped them into 4 groups of key actors, and I will take you one by one through the different groups. So if we start from the left here, the first focus group will be legal, local and regional authorities. So basically municipalities, cities or regional administrations who endeavor to establish new energy agencies on the ground. Here, what is for those of you to whom this resonates, you might be aware that energy agencies, of which there are about 250 actively operating in Europe today, are really unique actors of the energy transition. They demonstrate that they have a substantial convening power in their territory on strategic decision makings on the energy transition, but they do also normally have a very critical operational capacity to support their cities, to support their regional administration, really in the delivery of their own decarbonization strategies. And here we would like to give out support for new establishments. And this, so in case you're interested in looking at this from your territorial concept, that would be basically an entry door for such a funding. Moving to the next group, here we are looking, and Pierluca had already highlighted the very interesting and growing role of energy service companies in the market. Energy service companies, which are organizations which offer energy services. Usually there are many definitions of energy services companies. There's also many definitions of ESCOs in Europe, but normally they do have in common that they do offer energy services, which include so-called turnkey basis projects where ESCOs guarantee energy savings and contractually giving that contractual guarantee are benefiting from the efficiency gains, and therefore basically rendering or getting their attribution of the service that they offer. In some cases, in many cases, ESCOs are also very critical to organize and stand by to organize the financial engineering for projects, or even being in the contractual relationship to organize and sign off such finance solutions, so that they offer also off-balance sheet solutions. But these are already varieties of different energy savings companies. Here, we would be looking for supporting energy service companies in piloting and rolling out ambitious investment and financial solutions for, and that is important, for deep renovation. So you see our ambition level here really is for ambitious, for large-scale investment, and for financial solutions which match the ambition of going for deep renovation in the building segment, which outlined by Pierluca before is one of the most targeted and promising economic areas in the energy efficiency targets. Moving to the third group of actors, financial institutions, brokers, insurers, public-private partnerships, or any other actor in the finance industry at large to roll out, develop financial products and solutions. Here we are looking at results from many of our live clean energy transition projects, which have piloted specific financial products or piloted specific financial approaches or structures. And while many of our projects are rather looking at the structural changes, here we would like to offer the opportunity for actually the actual product to be developed and rolled out at even a commercial base throughout a region, throughout a country, or why not throughout several countries. The fourth group turns now to reflect the efforts done lately on making sure that the EU has a solid and safe and secure access to clean net zero energy technology bases. So really to support the European manufacturers of net zero energy technology to roll out innovative techniques, including quite a broad range of activities, identification of needs for regulatory updates, even up to regulatory sandboxes could be funded, but also where you feel that fostering collaboration with actors along a whole value chain in a sectoral approach to your industry could increase the market uptake and the large-scale deployment of your clean energy solutions in line with the Net Zero Industry Act. And as Pierluca outlined before, there are 8 net zero technology areas which are in the priority of the Net Zero Industry Act, and which would be here really the priority for this funding. This is basically a view on the 4 groups of actors which would receive priority in this first standard action call under the Life Clean Energy Transition. If we move to the next slide, here we just take a very short look on the expected impact based on the nature of the funding. Here we would obviously look at a topic-specific impact, which really looks at foremost the concrete results, the impact on relevant market and stakeholders. And this is why we would also invite you in your proposal to really highlight specific market-related information in your application. So basically in sharing with the evaluators who will be looking at your proposal and your proposal only. They are not allowed to take any other information into account. So you have an interest of sharing information which really relate even to production units, depending on the sector, obviously, square meters, production units, the specific pieces in terms of regulatory updates or regulatory probing that you would like to endeavor, that you are really as specific as possible in order to make your case that the impact on relevant markets and stakeholders will be tangible with the achievement of your endeavor. Looking at the next slide, here you have basically a whole range of different indicators which are either topic specific, so which can be topic specific in the sense of relating to the 4 key actor types and the type of activities, market and economic activities that you could picture under this topic. They will not be exhaustive. Because it will be very dependent also on your type of proposals that you would submit. But you can already see some examples in terms of number of pieces of legislation which is adapted or created, number of products, goods or services, processes or methods which are launched into the market and which are being, not more importantly, so even picked up by the market, or number of real-time implementation sites carried out by the project. I will not go through all of these examples, but they are meant to be mandatory as long as they are relevant to your type of project. And of course, you are invited to have activity-specific indicators by which you can convince the evaluators that you have a very good authority on the way that your project will move the market forward, and also have a certain assumptions and proof and credible numbers, credible arguments as to convince the evaluators that your impact will be reached. If we go to the next slide, here just a summary slide. So to repeat from earlier messages, also from the plenary session this morning, it is important to note that as much as we move very much forward close to market, also the co-funding is coherently adapted. So we have here a 60% of co-funding. There is no size of the project which is indicated. This is really up to the choice of your intervention. Overall, we have a budget of 4 million euro available for this type of activities. And as this question is always very often asked here in this activity, it is possible to have at least one applicant from one eligible country, which means you are perfectly able to run an endeavor also from a perspective which is localized, regionalized, or in the perspective of the boundaries of a member state, depending on the logic, intervention logic of your idea and of the markets that you would like to tackle. Having said this, obviously other combinations in a larger group of participants is not unusual, even in this from the same country, and all of this is completely flexible up to matching the intentions of your project. In terms of the submission date, this is not on this slide, but I think it's good to repeat. It has the same deadline as all of the live clean energy transition funding topics. And so we're looking at the deadline of 19th of September. And with this, I would also only invite you to not overlook the last slide, but where you can actually not at all read the most crucial information, but I would hope it is perfectly legible when you download it in case of interest. Here again, the advice you have national contact points which are available in your country and who can advise you on our funding opportunities, but also can actually advise you on your application, on your actual proposal idea, but also on how you articulate this alongside the application form. And we have advice here in our energy transition team available at CENEA in case there were clarification to the understanding of the funding topic. We can't quite be advising you on the quality of your application. That really is the national contact point who has the mandate to do this, but we can of course be available for any clarification or any support in terms of the submission forms. This was the journey alongside the content of the standard action projects for this year. And with this, we could be available to open for a range of questions. So I just allow a bit of time for our very kind colleague in the background who are supporting us with the IT and the Slido questions. So let me take this by popularity. This is what the good feature about Slido is, that we have a popularity filter. And so let's take the first question, and I'm reading it out for the benefit of all of the participants. What can a CET Call offer that all the other CSA can't? Maybe the scope for manufacturers of net zero energy technology is not covered by other CSA, but the funding rate is difficult. So how do you sell the CET? I think I give the first privilege to Pierluca on this in terms of the overall landscape of the funding opportunities, because obviously the transition program is very much in support to DG NR's policies, and I'm very happy to add in terms of the alignment with other topics. Pierluca, would you like to start?
Thank you, Annette. Yes, indeed, fundamental question. I would say the first element is indeed regarding the scopes, because some of those that, and this was of course carefully addressed, and I saw also in some other question there was specifically regarding the local topic, but you will not find necessarily the same type of support or the same areas targeted across the other call topics. In some cases, I mean, I would say I'm thinking about innovative financing. I mean, it could somehow work, but if your project or your activity do not necessarily fit there in terms of also of ambition of what is required, this call topic is more flexible, more open, so it really goes and support your current, I mean, your own idea a bit more on a flexible way. So this is a bit the first offer, and this is also why the co-financing are of course different, why we do not have the rule of 3 organizations from different member states, as well as why we also co-finance also some other type of specific cost. But yeah, I would say it like this, and maybe yeah, I'll hand over back to you, Annette, because I'm sure you can add more.
Thank you. Thank you, Pierluca. I think this is a valid question. Let me just compliment. I thought you said all in terms of the complementarity and the logic. I can maybe offer an example. If we are looking at the group of energy service companies, in so-called CSA projects, or coordination and support projects, what we would typically fund would be, for example, a project which across 10 member states establishes quality criteria and a quality certification scheme for the work of ESCOs, so that in case when they turn to the private finance sector, so to their banks, that they can have the additional reassurance of having gone through a quality reassurance process, which shows that their organization, but also their projects, respond to due diligent criteria as the commercial banks would check. And so it would alleviate their access to private finance, but it would also alleviate the work of banks who can cut short on certain due diligence processes. That would be typically a work in which we would try to remove market barriers for the very active and dynamic work of ESCOs, so that they're not slowed down by due diligence processes of the financial sector, which are not necessarily adapted to the typical work of energy serving companies. That would be a typical work under the CSAs, whereas in the SAP, obviously we are very open to new ideas and to your ideas, but one could imagine that even one or a grouping of ESCOs who are having a very commercial endeavor, but with a highly risky and innovative new approach, organizational approach, and new financing approach, could be offered a funding, and that would, in all honesty, not be possible under a CSA, because we are not funding single products or single approaches or single organizations on their commercial values or their commercial endeavors. So in that sense, maybe this example could help to show the difference. So let's go to the next question. Is it mandatory to have activities in several countries? And yes, how many? So thank you for the question. So this basically is no, it is not mandatory. You can have activities in at least one eligible country. And that is another opportunity which is offered by the standard action projects, and which is very different from our mainstream call. On the next question, which I think is very relevant for if somebody was looking at the new energy scope, can already an existing legal entity wish to expand its services and submit an application? I think that's a very valid question, in the sense of that energy agencies obviously can take very many different shapes and structures and legal entities, but also in the way that they're affiliated or not to their public authority. Here, if you look at the topic as it's presented, it really is support for public authorities, so for cities or regional administrations or other public bodies to set up new structures. Now, an energy agency has usually, in the understanding of energy agencies today, have a larger mission definition, a larger remit compared to, for example, the great one-stop shops for renovation, which have a very focused delivery mission statement. And in that sense, one would need to show that there really is a new additionality of a structure which is added, and which really covers the whole bandwidth of services and delivery operations that a fully fledged energy agency can deliver. And the link to the local structures in terms of their local, public, or regional administrations need to be really demonstrated in order to sustain long-term success and mandate in the territory. Maybe we take then the next question, because the next question is very similar. On the specific cost eligibility conditions for the call, equipment cost, what kind of equipment is covered here? Thank you for the question. We are not the financial specialists, but I can give you a broad brush response in terms of the type of equipment is not predefined by the conditions for the eligibility of investment cost. So basically, equipment costs are eligible under the standard action projects, and even I would say in a wider definition compared to the mainstream clean energy transition call, in a sense that there is a possibility for equipment which is shown absolutely essential for the activity and which has a durability, sustainability over time and is really fully inscribed in the assets of the organization, that even full cost equipment could be eligible. You know that the standard rule is depreciation cost, but in terms of, there is actually here in the standard action projects, there is a possibility to even have full cost. There is no, as I said, pre-definition. Anything which is essential to operate the project is eligible in terms of equipment. There are, of course, sensitive exceptions, but which are not applying so much to the clean energy transition context, but with that you can find fully clearly in the call text itself. I'm just looking at the time, 2 o'clock. We can maybe tackle 2, 3 last question. I'll take the question on the expected lifetime of a sub-project, looking at my colleague Pierluca, whether he would be happy to take this one.
Yes, I can reply, but I'm afraid I don't have a full reply here. But I think we usually speak about 4 years, similar to our coordination and support actions. Or do we have a I think on this I don't I'm not sure if we have reflected internally yet, Annette.
Sorry, Pierluca. Sorry, Pierluca.
Or if you have a better reply, yes.
In terms of the regular of the call, there is no upper timeline. Having said this, if you look at the nature of the activities, that we are really looking at market deployment, at uptake of innovative solutions, we are looking at a timeline which will not be a decade from now. So typically in our experience, we have projects which are lying anything between 2 and 4 years of duration. And it will be basically in your appreciation as an applicant and in your market knowledge, but also, of course, in the knowledge of the processes that it takes to take your project from step to step, involving all of the stakeholders that are needed in order to really make your game-changing breakthrough in terms of your product or concept or approach, that you demonstrate to us which lifetime is necessary for your project. Then I'm just looking at the question. We've already devoted a bit of time to the energy agencies. Here it says, can a newly established energy agency submit an application to increase the services? Here, my take would be that this would not comply fully with the call. In the call, we are really looking for new energy agencies to be created, whereas increasing of the services, you probably would be very well placed rather in the actual funding topics, which will accompany you with a project really along the topic lines of the mainstream call. And then we take one last question, because that relates somehow to the previous question. Can we include ongoing activities in a project proposal, which probably on an innovation line is a valid question. Here, the response is that in principle, no, you cannot include ongoing activities per se in a project proposal, because obviously there needs to be additionality and really of the activities that you're proposing for public funding. Having said this, it is also completely recognized and fully recognized that you can have activities changing fundamentally in terms of pace, in terms of their frequency, in terms of their scale, through the benefit of this support. And therefore, if you build on activities and actually take them up, because this is really what we are trying to do, to scale up market solutions, and then there is necessarily, obviously, already a concept probing or early pilots that you might have been running in the context of what you are trying to change. And in that way, if you're building on, but adding basically really a whole new development phase, a whole new scaling up phase, a whole new deployment phase, bringing your project closer to market realities, here the standard action project funding would be ideal in your endeavors. And I think looking at the time and trying to respect that participants would probably be looking for moving over to further sessions this afternoon, I would suggest that we slowly think of closing this session. I first pass the floor back still to Pierluca, maybe for a last word from your side.
Thank you very much, Annette, and thank you also to the applicant, to the potential applicant for all the questions. So, I mean, to conclude also from my side, because I think it's important in this specific topic to, as we mentioned, to understand that this is a first test, is in the intervention logic of the Clean Energy Transition Program. Is the first time we are presenting, we are opening a standard action project. We are curious. We are very interested to see what are the project out there that can or the ongoing activities. And as said, very close to market. We are looking at also justifying the impact in terms of the commercial or market-based impact. We're very curious to see what can be received, also to draw possible further conclusion on that. And yes, I'm looking forward to see what the applicant and also to see what will be the proposal and the uptake of this first testing. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierluca. Thank you for being with us. Thank you also for all of the colleagues in the back office who have been running the session, and to our very fast Slido moderator. And with the last word on in direction of Slido, we would like to invite you to take a short moment to also respond to our poll, whether you've been happy with the information that you received during this session. Apart from this, the same lines that probably you heard in other sessions is valid. Obviously, you can find these sessions recorded and you can listen to them at your own pace at any point in time. A few days after this information day, all of the material will be downloadable in our website so that you have this information available. And in case you're struggling with a question, remember that we showed you on our last slide that you have national contact points who are available for you as much as our clean energy transition team here at the Commission at CENEA. With this, we would like to thank you for your attention. We would like to thank you for your questions. Thank you again, Pierluca, for having joined us and offering us the policy background. And then we will let you go. We'll let you take a short rest before you might decide to join up for the last final parallel sessions of this afternoon. Thank you again, and bye-bye.